Now then guys, how you doing? Craig here, thank you for joining me on another rebuild. As today we take on Southampton as voted for by you. That is the main thing, this is the one that you wanted to see. And today I tried to stop Southampton from being relegated, first of all in the first season, and keep them established in the Premier League. Now we have got 3 seasons to do that. And just looking at Southampton as they are now, the squad is easily good enough. Now in real life, obviously they sacked Ralph Hasenhuttl, and in my opinion that was a massive overreaction. And then they went for Nathan Jones, who not in a million years was a Premier League manager. And now they're just all but destined to be relegated to the Championship next season. They are doomed in my opinion. So yes, if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe as this channel continues to grow. But the main thing is trying to save Southampton, keep them established in the Premier League, and who knows, pick up a bit of silverware across the way. So yes, let's get into rebuilding Southampton. So here we are on the club info screen, and at Southampton they are a bit of a talent factory, that's what they've been known for. However, this has fallen away a little bit over the years, but for me it's going to be a bit of a moneyball approach over the next 3 seasons, is to develop players, sell them on, make a bit of money, and then bring more talent in, whilst trying to integrate those youth players as well. So as you can see, training facilities 4.5 star, youth facilities only 4 star, that junior coaching not ideal. And the youth recruitment isn't bad. Now we play at St Mary's, that's the home ground, and it's got an average capacity of over 32,000. As far as the history of the club goes, when we're having a look, Southampton were relegated from the Premier League in the 2004-2005 season. They actually got relegated down into League One when they finished 23rd in 2008-2009. Promoted again after a couple of seasons, and then were promoted again the season after with a 2nd place finish in 2011-2012 season. And then they've minced about in the Premier League, as finishing as high as 6th in the 2015 season. But they've had a difficult couple of years, bottom half of the table, and this season, like I say, it's likely that they will be relegated. The last trophy they won was the Papa John's Trophy in 2010, and the last won the FA Cup in 1976. So there's nothing else other than that. So the aim is, like I say, to be established and try to add a bit of silverware to the trophy cabinet. So first of all, to do that, I am going to need some funds. Like I touched on earlier, this squad is good enough, at least not to get relegated this season, but I do need to add more to it. And I've currently got a transfer budget of £1.7 million. The wage budget's 1.7 as well, and we're just slightly under that. The overall balance is 583k. With debt and loans, net debt is £165 million. With transfer debt, 78 million. Looking at the squad then, first of all, tactically, I am going to go with the diamond. Now, I don't think they've really got the talent in the wide areas, so we're going to have a balanced, slow style of play, and we're just going to frustrate teams, and we're going to hit them on the counter-attack. Yeah, we're going for the 4-4-2 diamond, and we're basically going to shithouse our way to survival. But then when we look at the squad overall, so the highest valued player at the club is Kaladim Sulemana. He's currently valued at £54 million. We have just brought him in actually for £22 million. And just as I was saying, I didn't think there was enough talent in those wide areas, we've actually brought him in as a wide player. But we are going to try and convert him to an attacker midfielder who can play in that central position. Ward-Prowse, in my opinion, is the best player at the club, valued at up to £60 million. And there's going to be a real struggle to keep hold of him, especially obviously if we're fighting relegation this season. He is a set-piece master. He's an absolute pro. Tireless midfielder is description. He's been at Southampton all of his career, scored 10 goals last season in 36 appearances, and I just think this guy is the key to keeping us in the Premier League. But what other competitions have we got then? We've got the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup as well. When we look at the Premier League and the season preview, we're expected a 16th place finish, 450 to 1 to win the league, and obviously we've got no players in that Media Dream 11. So what is the club vision then, and the board's expectation is a mid-table finish in the Premier League this season, to be competitive in the FA Cup and to be competitive in the Carabao Cup. Work towards developing the Premier League's best youth system, I think that's the way to go, and work towards developing the best youth system in the country. The actionable objectives are to sign players to sell for a profit and to work within the wage budget. And supporters wise then is to finish above Bournemouth in the league and to remain within the Premier League. That's definitely the way to go. Obviously Premier League survival is the main thing, and when we're talking about developing those players, my 3 best players in the youth setup is Juan Larios, who is an 18-year-old Spaniard who plays at left back. He's just joined us actually from Manchester City for £6 million, so quite an investment there. It might be worth actually moving him into the senior squad already, because I do note that there's a lack of depth out in the wide areas, especially with Livramento being out injured with a ruptured ACL. And then another one of the talented players at the club, Sekou Mara, who can play up front, can play out in those wide areas as well. He's 19-year-old Frenchman, and again, it's someone that we've just brought in, £9.5 million from Bordeaux, where he actually scored 6 times in Ligue 1 last season. So back looking just at the tactics, and as it is at the moment, where do I need to strengthen? For me, I think I just need to strengthen up front. I believe we've got a good enough team to survive this season. That is the main aim. I'm not after European football in the first season. I'm not chasing the dream, finishing the top 6-7 places. That's certainly not going to happen. I would like to progress to the latter stages of those domestic cups. But for me, I think we just need to strengthen up top. AORUS, who has just joined us as well, with that finishing at 16, acceleration and pace of 16 and 18 is certainly good enough. That's out on those wide areas, but even when we push him up top as one of the forward two, I think he's got enough about him. So what we're going to do is we're going to move forward to the start of season 1, where hopefully I've done some good business in the transfer window, but I am going to have to move a couple of players on to generate some funds. Right, so it's the start of the season then, and I said I wasn't going to do any silly business, but I have done just that. When we look at the finances, we've now got £27 million in the overall transfer budget. The overall balance is £20 million. Debt and loans wise, still higher, with net debt at £139 million, transfer debt £75 million. And players leaving us then, the first player out the door was Bechellii. He has gone off to Everton for £15 million. He actually played 30 times for us last season, scoring 4 goals. He was never going to feature in my plans. He was one of the wide players. And like I say, we just go into that narrow diamond. £15 million, I'll take that. Everton, I think, have got a little bit of a dud there. And then Adam Armstrong has gone off to Leicester City now. £18 million they took him from. We bought him for £15 million last season, scoring 2 times in 23 games for us. Obviously, it wasn't enough for me to keep him at the club. I don't really rate him. Yes, he's pacey, but he's a winger. He was never going to feature up front. I've got too many good options. So to get that kind of money for him, I was very happy. So coming through the door, and the first player that I've brought in is Roberto Gagliardini. Comes in as a central midfielder. We've taken him on from Inter Milan. We brought him in for £2.7 million as well. He's now valued at 12.5, so there's a little bit of a money ball option there. He's 28-year-old, 7 caps for Italy. Very, very good player, mentally and physically solid, and he's a tireless midfielder. And he's a very good addition to the squad. And then the crazy signing was bringing Gareth Bale back to Southampton. Now, yes, predominantly a wide player, but I am going to play him up top. I've only got him for 6 months because he's going to retire on the 9th of January. I've tried to talk him out of it. He's not interested. At 33-year-old, I think I could have got at least another 18 months out of him, but he is not interested. And I brought him in for a free transfer after he'd left the MLS. But yeah, like I say, starting off at Southampton before Tottenham snapped him up for £5 million. So he's going to end his career where he started it. But I do just want to talk about the transfers in general, as we've actually spent £129 million in this transfer window. I say we. Majority of this stuff happened before I took over, but there's been a massive investment in the club, which does make you think it's an absolute disaster where they are in the league with £129 million worth of investment. Transfers out, £44 million. They might have recouped a bit of that back in, but we have got a lot of that anyway. And like when I discussed the outgoings, £33 million of that money coming back in has come from sales that I have made. So tactics wise then, this is how we're likely to line up as my starting 11, with McCarthy in goal, Maitland-Niles, Salisu, Bednarek and Walker-Peters out wide. Lavia with Gagliardini and Ward-Prowse in the middle. Aribo behind Adams and Bell. Now there's plenty of options. Like I said, we've got very good squad depth. There's players fighting to be in that first 11. You know, we have got Bazunu, who is likely to be my long-term number 1. Kaleta who can just play in where Salisu is. There's, like I say, there's an abundance of options. I don't think we're lacking in the squad depth department. So competitions-wise remain the same as the season preview. Our expectation was still 16th. It's not changed. We've got no players in the Media Dream 11, but I am very happy with the additions to the squad. So we've obviously had an incredible pre-season, you know, beating Slough 12-0. They're the kind of teams we need to beat if we want to stay in the Premier League, obviously. The selection of teams we played in these friendlies wasn't good at all, you know, the calibre of them. But we start off with a game against Manchester City. Not the ideal place to start, but we are at home. We then go up to Newcastle to take them on. Fulham, Wolves and Manchester United then make up our 3 games after that. the sort of fixture list hasn't been kind to us. I'm not trying to get my excuses in now. Bournemouth, Villa and Forest, that is a very good September for us. So that is where I'm hoping to pick up some points. I would like to get something against Fulham and Wolves as well. But yeah, pre-season has been promising, but I am expecting, in true Football Manager style, to absolutely steamroll a pre-season and then lose every game in a domestic campaign. So yes, what we're going to do is we're going to move forward to the end of Season 1, where hopefully we've maintained our status as a Premier League club. Right then guys, so Season 1 is down and we have survived. That was the main aim, just to remain in the Premier League for another season. We finished with a 13th place finish, 43 points on the board, minus 20 goal difference, and I'm very happy with that. Yes, we didn't get into the top half of the table. We're pretty close to those relegation places, let's be honest. We were 5 points clear of Wolves, but we survived nonetheless. When we look at the league table then, in all its glory, 38 games played, 12 wins, 7 draws, 19 defeats for us this season, 57 goals scored. That's decent in comparison to the teams around us. However, I can see there we've conceded 77, which looks like that's the worst for the season. A minus 20 goal difference as well. But we won 3 of our last 5 games. And winning 3 of our last 5 games, like I said, we've moved up and down, but towards the back end of the season, a 4-2 victory over Manchester United at home. But looking at this, we've never been higher than 11th place. So competitions wise, no surprise that we didn't win anything. When we look at the FA Cup, we were actually knocked out in the semi-final 4-3. We were 3-1 up at half-time, as you can see there, before João Mario, with 3 goals in the second half, blew us away. We had 12 shots, 16 on target. They had 21 and 11. And it looks like we were 45 minutes away from an FA Cup final in our first season. And in the Carabao Cup, we were knocked out in the 3rd round by Newcastle. We were actually losing this one 2-1 at half time, 2-2 full time, then we lost 8-7 on penalties. Very even game there as well. However, we did boss possession at 57%. So finances wise then, big money this season, £40 million in the transfer budget, a wage budget of 1.8 million, and we're currently spending 1.5 million. Debt and loan wise then, we've got £136 million net debt. Transfer debt is £57 million. And when we're looking at that summary again, we've got 285k in the overall balance. However, we haven't dropped into the red all season. So player stats wise, and the top goal scorer is Paul Oniaku. 24 goals this season, 19 in the league, 5 in cup competitions, 24. That's not bad going at all. Not his best season ever. He joined us from Genk for £18 million. Like I said, that's a good return, that. 19 goals in the Premier League in 28 appearances. He also got the iced average rating at 7.46. Most assists was James Ward-Prowse with 15. That's no surprise. Best pass completion was Coletta Carr with 91%. Most player of the match awards was Oniaku with 7. Coletta Carr and Kyle Walker-Peters got 12 yellow cards apiece, and most red cards, that's 1 apiece for James Ward-Prowse, Salisu and Bella Kotchap. And then when we look at the team stats, as team stats wise then, we scored 57 goals, which is the 7th best. Not bad going at all, but there you go. 77 conceded, which is the worst. 85 yellow cards, which is the 2nd worst, and red cards wise 3, which is the 7th worst. And the average attendance was the 8th worst at just over 31,000. Now, one thing I will say is tactically I pantsed it and I've changed it, so I have gone back to those wide men. So we're playing a 4-3-3. It's the one I've stuck with in the last few rebuilds. It's my go-to when things start going wrong, so I'm going to start to build a squad now around the 4-3-3. So Season 2, and what a transfer window it's been. We've had some good incoming, some very good outgoing, some random loans, and some solid free transfers. So yes, first of all, let's have a look at those finances, as we've still got £24 million in the overall balance. That wage budget is 1.8 million, and we're currently spending just under 1.7. The overall balance is 7.7 million, looking strong, and debt and loans, £120 million, and our transfer debt is down to £48 million. So plenty of players have left the club, and the first player to go was Musa Genepo. He has gone off to Zaragoza for £3.7 million. Now, we brought him in for £10.5 million. He only played 2 times for his last season. However, he did get an assist, but he was never going to feature in my first team plans for the long term. So Roberto Gagliardini, a player that I brought in last season and tried to moneyball, has gone off to Union Berlin in Germany after 1 season. We spent £2.7 million on him, and we sold him on for 5.75. He played 90 times for last season, so I think we got our money's worth, and he's played 1 time in the Bundesliga already. Our male Bellachotchap has gone off to PSV for £13.5 million. We spent £8.5 million on him last season, and he was highly regarded. However, again, not somebody that was going to feature in my plans long term. When you're doing a 3-year rebuild, you know, I haven't got time to develop this guy. So when a £13.5 million offer from PSV come in for him, I let him go because he's not ready to be in the first team yet. Ibrahima Diallo has gone off to Shakhtar Donetsk in Ukraine for £8.5 million. Again, a player that we spent plenty of money on, £13.25 million. We actually let him go out on loan last season to Fiorentina, where he played 26 times, but he's come back and he wasn't going to feature in my first team. And Stuart Armstrong, a player that I wanted to get another season out of, wanted to leave the club to take on a new challenge, and he's gone off to Everton down in the Championship, obviously relegated last season. He only played 7 times his last season, but I would have liked to have kept him for another season as a squad depth option. But £4 million offer coming from Everton, he wanted to go, and I think it was the right thing to do for a 31-year-old. And then from a real random loan perspective, PSV come in for Gavin Bazzuno. Now, he's valued at £42 million, and I was toying with the idea of selling him on. He's 21-year-old, he's got 12 caps for Republic of Ireland already, and they've taken him on for 300k. Now, last season, as you can see, he was first choice, played 34 times, conceded 71 goals. So he didn't have a great season, and when PSG come in for him, I thought, why not let him go out for a season? Unlikely that he's going to be the first choice, but I would imagine he'll develop better there at PSG than he would have done sat on our bench. And the reason he would have been sat on our bench is that we've brought in the 25-year-old Turkish international with 7 caps, Altay Bayındır. Quality goalkeeper, now valued up to £34 million. He's got plenty of opportunity to develop further as well, and we brought him in on a free transfer from Fenerbahce, where he played 27 times last season, conceded 21 goals, 13 clean sheets, 3 player of the match performances, an average rating of a 7.23, and this guy comes in as my first choice goalkeeper. I then brought in Leo Ostergaard. Now, this is a guy that I've had in a couple of rebuilds, and he's somebody that I do like to bring into the club, especially given that you can pick him up for fairly cheap, and we brought him in for £6 million. After Napoli spent £4 million on him last season, he only played 4 times in Serie A, and I think he's a solid centre-back. That heading 16, marking 14, tackling 15, strength 15, 6 foot tall. He's a powerful centre-back, and this guy's only going to get better, and he's already got 6 caps for Norway. Now, with Brighton getting relegated last season, I managed to get Karu Mitoma in for £23 million, and that was a cut price deal. He had a very good season in the Premier League last season, 34 games played, 9 goals, 7 assists, 2 player of the match performances. Will play out on that left-hand side, dribbling 18, crossing 12 could be a bit better, but that acceleration and pace of 17, 16. I'm expecting big things from this season. He's had a very good pre-season. 2 starts, 2 goals. So yeah, I'm not expecting him to carry the team, but I'm certainly expecting him to play his part. I then brought in another free transfer, Omar Marmoush. He's valued at £26 million, Egyptian with 17 caps already. We got him on a free transfer from Wolfsburg. Didn't exactly set the Bundesliga alight last season with 6 starts, 1 goal. But he's coming in as a squad depth option. Can play up top and out on that left-hand side. So with that acceleration of 16, dribbling 16 as well. He's had a decent pre-season, making 2 starts and scoring a goal. Then a bit of a curveball out of nowhere, Andrea Bellotti become available. Now, he's 29-year-old. He is a goal scorer, 45 caps, 12 goals. He hasn't had the best couple of seasons. He played 25 times for Roma last season, only scoring 2 goals. But his time at Torino, like I say, he was prolific. And he become available for £3.2 million. I thought he's a very good option. When we're looking at somebody pacey up top, he's probably not that man. He'll be better at holding up the ball and bullying defenders. But he can press forward, and I think he'll get double digits this season. And then with all my outgoings, I realised that we were light in the midfield. So the first player that I brought in was Stefano Sensi, 28-year-old Italian with 9 caps, 3 goals, valued at 6.8 million. Technically, he is gifted, and I brought him in for 2.4 million from Inter Milan. They spent 17.75 on him after spending 4.4 million on him the season before. Now, he's out on loan last season at Monza, where he played 32 times. Again, like I say, a very solid option. He's down there as a midfielder. I would play him deeper because of that first touch 16, passing 16. The marking worries me at 7, as I would want him obviously to play a little bit deeper. But he is a very good creative player. And then another midfielder to play slightly further forward is Rodrigo Zalazar. Now, 24-year-old Uruguayan has got no caps yet, which does surprise us. I want him in the midfield. That dribbling 16, long shot 16, technique 16, work rate 17. He's got a bit of flair about him. The aggression worries me a little bit. He probably has got a red card in him. But last season he was at Schalke where they paid £1.3 million for him. He actually played 28 times, scoring 4 goals, 5 assists, 3 player of the match performances. He has 1 game in the Bundesliga. Obviously Schalke relegated last season. And this time round we spent £11.5 million on him. So a very good deal for me. And tactically, how are we going to set up then? So we're still going to go with that 4-3-3 with Alte in goal, Parade, Salisu, Ostergaard and Livramento at the back, with Sensi in that deep role, Ward-Prowse and Lavia in the midfield, Mitoma and Ariba out wide, and Bellotti up front. Now Bellotti, obviously, we'll see how he gets on. Plenty of goals were scored by Hasenhuttl last season, but Bellotti is going to make the start. So competitions-wise then, we've got the Premier League, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup. Obviously, we come very close in the FA Cup last season, getting to the semi-final. But what is the expectation this season? We're expecting a 12th place finish, so not bad going. 300 to 1 to win the league. Sunderland, Middlesbrough and Norwich teams coming up. And we've got no players in the Media Dream 11, and that is dominated by Man City players. And then finally the schedule, we start off with games against Newcastle, Brentford, Manchester City, Bournemouth and Sunderland. So there's an opportunity, you know, if we can get away with a draw at Newcastle, Manchester City is going to be a tough ask. Brentford, Bournemouth, Sunderland though, in my opinion, all winnable games, but Brentford are favourites against us there. We are favourites against Southampton, so yes, a very big first 5 games coming up. Hopefully we pick up a bit of momentum early and we can really push on. So yes, what we're going to do then is we're going to move forward till the end of Season 2, where hopefully we've now got a top half finish. Right guys, so Season 2 is down and you'll never guess what happened. Now we ended up against the odds getting Champions League football. We've got Champions League football coming to St Mary's next season. That is absolutely ridiculous. And by the look of this, we've had a shocking end to the season, losing 3 of our last 5 games. You can see there, looks like we beat Manchester City 3-2, Sunderland 2-1, but then losing 5-1 to Liverpool, 3-1 to Bournemouth, and 3-2 to Aston Villa has really hurt our chances of a second place finish. Now that would just have been for funds. As you can see there, we finished 2 points clear of West Ham as they got 71 points. But we were joint on points with Manchester City with 73, Chelsea had 74 points, Liverpool ran away with it. They were 17 points clear at the top of the Premier League. But looking at it there, and like I say, Champions League football coming to St Mary's next season, as we played 38 games, 22 wins, 7 draws, 9 defeats, 3 of them in the final 5 games of the season, 73 goals scored, 43 conceded, plus 30 goal difference, so we are up there with the best of them. Nottingham Forest, Sunderland and Middlesbrough all going down. I like to poach players from the teams being relegated, but I can't see us dipping into those 3 clubs. And then looking at the past positions, we were up as high as 2nd place. Obviously, forget the start of the season, but we're up as high as 2nd place from match day 13, and we stayed there all the way until match day 25. We pipped up there again. We were up at match day 31 back into 2nd. We fell apart a bit as previously discussed. And on the final game of the season, we beat Sunderland 2-1 and end up in those Champions League places. So competitions wise then, like I say, against all odds, we've ended up in 4th place. We got knocked out in the quarter-final in the FA Cup. An opportunity there against Norwich as well, as we lose in extra time. James Ward-Prowse missing a penalty on 50. Alcatraz sent off on 87 minutes. Carl Walks-Peters injured on 108. And Kieran Dowell with a goal on 110 minutes. They absolutely dominated us in fairness. 23 shots, 8 on target. It was 50-50 possession, but yeah, we were played off the park by the look of this. Jordan Pickford, now at Norwich as well, gets a player of the match performance. And then in the Carabao Cup, we were well and truly beaten by Manchester United as Anthony Martial getting a hat-trick there. James Ward-Prowse actually scored a penalty on this one on 36. It was an even game, but the scoreline was all Manchester United. So finances wise then, this coming season we've got £49 million in the transfer budget. That wage budget is £1.8 million. Overall balance £12 million. We're back in the black. And debt and loans wise, we're down to £103 million net debt. And our transfer debt now down to £35 million. So looking at the player stats then, Mislav Orvik got 17 goals and he was the top goal scorer. It would be interesting to see where he fared with everyone else. He wasn't even in the top 8 goal scorers, as Erling Haaland with 30 goals this season, absolutely tearing up. Gabriel Barbosa has gone to Manchester United and got 22 goals. Ivan Toney with 19 and Marcus Rashford with 19 as well. Lorenzo Luca is a bit of an odd one. I rate this guy highly and he's ended up at Leicester City for 4.2 million. Not bad going, where he scored 16 goals this season. The highest average rating was Matoma with a 7.34. Most assists was James Ward-Prowse. I think that's unsurprising at 19 assists. The best pass completion was Coletta Carr with 90%. Most player of the match awards was Matoma with 7. Most yellow cards, 14 for Walker-Peters. And we got 3 players that got red cards. And then when we look at the team stats, we scored 73 goals, which is the 4th best. Love that. We conceded 43, a little bit higher, but that's the 7th best. Yellow cards wise, we got 84, which is the 4th worst. Red cards wise, we got 2, which is the 8th worst. And we had the 9th worst average attendance. Now in January we had a bit of an injury scare. 3 of my back 4 were out. Both my centre-backs were out, so I went out and got Jan-Paul van Hecke. He joined us for £15 million from Brighton. I was happy with the valuation and the deal. He's going to turn into a real quality player, 23-year-old. We may not get caps out of him over the next 12 months, but he's certainly someone who's going to develop over the next 5 years should you carry on this save. And then finally looking at the performance of the rest of the team. So Orsic was obviously the top goal scorer. Mitoma there though with 15 goals and 11 assists. Onachu with 15 goals, 3 assists. James Ward-Prowse, 10 goals this season, 19 assists. When we look at the transfer value of some players now, Tino Livramento is a top value player at £73 million. I've got opportunity to maybe let 1 or 2 players go and rebuild the squad. However, why fix it if it's not broken? If we're playing in Europe, that team there is obviously not deep enough to go through an additional competition. And even if we go out at the group stage, we're aiming for that 3rd place in that Champions League group and hopefully get into those Europa League places. But yes, what we're going to do is we're going to take that forward into Season 3 where I'm just going to do a bit of tinkering. There'll be no major rebuild this time round. Right, so I said just before the break I was only going to tinker, and true to form, I've sold loads of players, brought loads of players in, but I've certainly improved the squad. As finances wise, I've got nothing left in the transfer budget. The wage budget, we're spending £3,000 over what the budget was provided. I've knackered the overall balance a little bit at minus £43 million. Debt and loans wise, we're up to £149 million now. Transfer debt is £26 million. But I've taken a little bit of risk. I think Champions League revenue will help us out there. So players leave, and then the first player out was Romain Parade. Now, I was going to keep this guy, but I could not get his work permit approved, and I had to sell him on, and he went to £6 million to Italy, to Bologna. He only actually played 3 times last season as his work permit ran out. I tried to extend it in January, it got rejected. I've tried again in the summer, was rejected, so we've let him go to Italy. Bechellii, a player that joined us last season, has stayed in the Premier League and has gone to Aston Villa. Now, we brought him in for £3.2 million. He only played 1 time for us, and I let him go out on loan in January. He went off to Cadiz in La Liga, where he played 18 times, 4 goals, 3 assists. And then an offer coming from Aston Villa for £5.75 million, and I've let him go. Jan Bednarek has gone off to La Liga to Levante. He wanted to leave. He's currently valued at £29 million. I let him go for £13 million. Wanted a new challenge. He played 29 times his last season. Didn't do too bad at a 6.8. But when a £13 million offer came in from Levante, I took it. Kamaldeen Sulemana has gone to Olympiakos, to the Greek Super League for £15 million. Now, I could have got a little bit more money, but now I'm starting to scramble to get funds in to get my transfers over the line. So we spent £23 million on him. I let him go for £15 million. He only played 5 times last season with a 6.5 rating. Decent player attributes wise, very pacey. Dynamic winger is his media description, but yeah, I could have got more, but I accepted the first bid to come in. And then the last player to go is Umar Marouche. I brought him in again last season on a free transfer, and we've let him go to Celtic for 16.75, and it led up towards £22 million with add-ons. He's already played 1 time in the SPL, scoring 1 goal and getting a player of the match performance, but for us he played 21 times last season, 2 goals, 1 assist. So joining us then, the first player through the doors is a 24-year-old Brazilian, Vitão. He joins us from Shakhtar Donetsk on a free transfer. He played 20 times in the Ukrainian Premier League last season, scoring 2 goals, a 7.55 rating. Very good player, wanted to add some depth, and for a free transfer, who's currently valued at £37 million, I couldn't ask for any more. I then also brought in Brandon Williams on a free transfer, 23-year-old Englishman who left Manchester United after being out on loan last season, playing in the Championship with Brighton, played 12 times. Free transfer, a decent squad depth option who can play out at left and right back. Then with Bechellii going, I went out and I took my chances on a 23-year-old Brazilian, Yuri Alberto. Now this guy's got scoring pedigree. He played 21 times last season for Corinthians in the Brazilian Premier League and scored 10 goals, 1 assist, 1 player of the match performance. He scored 14 goals the season before and 11 the season before that. Now we brought him in, he's made 1 start in the pre-season, scoring 2 goals, and I'm hoping this is a sign of things to come. I then brought in Weston McKennie, a quality player with solid mentals and physical attributes. Currently 25-year-old with 56 caps for America, and I brought him in for £12 million from Juve. He actually had a season on loan at Leeds where he played 30 times with 1 goal and 3 assists. He didn't exactly do well there, but I think he's a very good option to partner up with Ward-Prowse in the midfield. And then adding some competitions for Mitoma, I've brought in Thiago Almada. Now this guy was a wonder kid a couple of years ago, and he's 23-year-old with 1 cap for Argentina. We brought him in from Atlanta United in the MLS where he played 21 times last season, no goals but 3 assists. We spent £16.75 million on him. But the big transfer of the window was bringing in Emiliano Buendia, and we brought him in for £54 million. What a massive deal that is. He played 35 times in the Premier League last season, 1 goal, 9 assists. But yes, solid money there. And you can see he's injured with a broken toe and out for 5 to 7 weeks, which doesn't help us. Not a great start for him, but he's now valued up to £104 million should we want to sell him on again. So looking at the ins and outs overall, we've managed to sell players for a total value of 61 million and we've spent 98 million pounds. I am very happy with that business. And tactically, when you look at my best 11, we're still going to stick with that 4-3-3. We've got Alti in goal, Walkers-Peters, Salisu, Vetau, Livramento with Lavia, Ward-Prowse and McKennie in the midfield, Matoma and Buendia out wide, and Yuri Alberto up front. I've got so many options. I'm in love with this team. This team going into the 3rd season is incredible. So competitions-wise then, we've got the Premier League, the Champions League, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. Still cannot believe we're in the Champions League. And when we look at the season preview, we are expected a 10th place finish, so a top half finish, 200 to 1 to win the league. No players in the Media Dream 11. Big news there is Pep Guardiola has left Manchester City to go to Arsenal. And when we look at the highest transfer fee this season, Kenneth Taylor has gone from Ajax to Manchester City for £92 million. He's valued up to £310 million now. And then finally looking at the schedule, we start off with Crystal Palace, Leeds, Manchester United, Leicester and Chelsea as my first 5 games. We've had a very good pre-season, however, we haven't taken on any elite team. So going into that final season then, we now have Champions League football coming to St Mary's, which is absolutely massive. It's our final season in charge. Can we finish better than that 4th place finish last season? Right, so this is it then guys, the end of season 3, and as you can see we've got a 7th place finish. I'm very happy with that. Yes, we're not in the top 4, maybe last season was a bit of an anomaly, however a 7th place finish. We've got European football coming back to St Mary's next season, as with a 7th place finish we'll be in the Europa League or the Europa Conference League. We'll have a look in a moment, but we finished on 64 points, 3 points clear of West Ham who are in 8th and 3 points behind Leicester City who are in 6th. So looking at the league table in a bit more detail then, 38 games played, 19 wins, 7 draws, 12 defeats, 58 goals scored, 47 conceded, plus 11 goal difference, 64 points on the board, but we only won 1 of our last 5 games. We drew 2 and lost 2. So looking at the past positions then, you know, we reached the dizzying heights of 3rd. Last season I think we were sat in 2nd place for quite a long period of the season, but yeah, we've ended up down, sitting in 7th place with a 3-0 victory over Newcastle United, and we ended the season losing at home 4-3 to Chelsea. So competitions wise, and I can see straight away that we've won the FA Cup with a 2-1 victory against Arsenal. We had 7 shots, 4 on target, scoring 2 goals. Goals from Mitoma on 23, Orsic on 42, and then we liked the nervy ending with Adamu getting a goal for Arsenal on 70 minutes. Right, so let's have a look at the goals, and there's Brandon Williams with the ball in. Matoma's there, it's a great finish. And then Orsic with what proved to be the winning goal, going by himself. That's an absolute screamer. Top bins from Orsic. And we win 2-1. So not bad going at all. 3 seasons in and we've lifted some silverware. As in the Champions League, we were knocked out in the playoff round by Atletico Madrid, which means we got through the groups. I think now we're going into that 3rd season. The Champions League was played out as a large league format instead of groups of 4. And we end up losing here on penalties. After drawing 2-2 on aggregate, you know, I'm happy with that. To get so far and to take Atletico Madrid to the wire in what was a fairly even game. Yes, they bossed it on possession, but shots-wise, we weren't too far apart. And then in the Carabao Cup, we were knocked out in the 4th round by Liverpool. Yuri Alberto with a goal in 11 minutes before Sepp van der Berg and Diogo Jota with goals. Yeah, again, an even game, but Liverpool clearly the more superior team. So finances-wise, and I'll leave the club £34 million in the black, and we have a transfer budget next season of £68 million. So if you want to carry this save on, it will be available down in the description, and you've got a war chest there, I think, to take this squad to a higher level than what it already is, because I think we've assembled quite a solid team here. We've got a wage budget of £1.8 million. Debt and loan-wise, though, now down to £55 million net debt, and transfer debt is down to £10 million. So I would imagine by the end of this next coming season, that transfer debt will be 0, and we'll be pretty close to being debt-free. So looking at the player stats-wise then, Yuri Alberto scored 28 goals this season, but I would imagine it's the Haaland show again. As we look at the player overview, Haaland got 16 goals. Yuri Alberto only actually scored 14 goals in the league. Mauro Icardi at Leicester City there, getting 19 goals in the Premier League this season. How much did they pay for him? £32 million, but that's a good return on investment. So 28 goals for Yuri Alberto, like I say, only 14 in the league, 10 in the cup, 4 in the Champions League, 28 goals overall. My goalkeeper Altay Bayindir had the highest average rating at 7.1. Most assists was James Ward-Prowse with 10. Best pass completion was Colette Akar with 91%. Most player of the match awards was Alberto with 6. Most yellow cards was Ward-Prowse with 14. And plenty of players getting red cards. And then when we look at the team stats, we scored 58 goals, which is the 8th best. We conceded 47, which is the 10th best. So a 7th place finish, not bad going at all. 80 yellow cards, which is the 4th worst, 4 red cards, which is the 3rd worst, and we had the 10th worst average attendance. So mid-table now for average attendance as well. So there we go. Let's have a look at the job history then. So we got a 13th place finish in our first season, a 4th place finish, obviously getting Champions League football in the second season, and in our third season, a 7th place finish. But we did win that FA Cup. And then just looking at the overview in general, we brought 18 players in for a total of 167 million. We sold 36 players for a total of 166 million. So in theory, I've only spent £1 million over 3 seasons. The highest fee spent was Buendia for £54 million from Aston Villa, and the highest fee received was £23.5 million for Leo Ostergaard, who left us in the January transfer window and went back to Brighton. He only played 6 games in the first half of the season, so that one was a no-brainer. So that is it then, guys. I've absolutely loved this rebuild. We have assembled one hell of a team, and I'm really happy with winning that FA Cup. Just to top it off with a bit of silverware, considering the money that we spent, but as you've just seen, the money that we've also received for our transfers. So yes, this save will be available down in the description. Like I say, give it a go. Let me know how you get on in the comments. If you are new to the channel and you've watched to this point, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. And if you have a look at my community tab, you will see that there's another selection of teams ready for the rebuild. Get your vote in, and hopefully I'll be rebuilding the squad that you've chosen. So yes, thank you very much for watching, stay safe, and I'll catch you later. Ta-ra.